to you. Good morning, good morning to you. Good morning, good morning. Won't you share with a friend or two? Good morning to you. You. Good morning, good morning to you. You. Good morning to you. And many more. Good morning, good morning, good morning, and welcome, welcome, welcome to Daring Dialogues. I'm your host today, Shantae Charles. I hope that you are having a great and wonderful day. It is Relationship Wednesday, where we talk all things relationships. I do want to give a shout out to those of you who have been my top fans for a while, who have been showing your leadership, who've been showing your support, who've been showing up here to watch the videos, to catch the replays, all of that good stuff. We do thank you for your time, your attention, your comments, and your feedback. I also want to announce that we have made 1,000 subscribers. So now the push is to get our watch time up. So one of the ways that you can help us do that is you can check out and select a playlist and check out that playlist, watch our playlist, give us feedback on some of our prior videos, some of our prior seasons that we have done here. Let us know what you think in the comments. Let us know what you think about the books that we are choosing, as we're actually getting ready to select another set of books for Thursdays as we finish up that particular book. Today we are in Drama Free, and we are also in Set Boundaries, Find Peace, a guide to reclaiming yourself. Wednesdays are dedicated to relationships. They're dedicated to becoming better in our relationships and how we see ourselves, how we set our boundaries, how we hold our boundaries with the people in our life. And we're really just working on healthy relationships, healthy boundaries, so that we can have the quality relationships that we need to have in our life. All right. So, really, we have been pounding into this topic on self care, self responsibility, right? And taking accountability for the kinds of relationships that we have. Today, we're in the chapter on troubleshooting relationships with parents, and this section is called How to Stop Hating Your Parents. I see hate as a very, very strong word, right? But everybody has not had the best relationship, the best interactions with their parents. So if you are a person that is on that side of the aisle, the writer is going to talk to us today about that. And then we're going to move into the question of, what are your parents' stories? And how do you control what you can in regards to that? All right. And then from there, we'll move to the next reading. This is the book that we are reading from: How to Stop Hating Your Parents. You don't have to forgive and forget to stop being angry at your parents. Two things can exist: your truth about the relationship and your desire to maintain the relationship. You can accept your parents for who they are and how they treat you or have treated you. What happened in your parents' life that shaped their relationship with you? There are no valid excuses for mistreating you, so never feel that there are. However, understanding does breed grace. They may have a history of trauma or addiction, or they may lack the skills necessary to nurture you. Their life experiences and unhealthy coping strategies likely affected you in your relationship with them. It isn't your fault, and you can't fix their issues. Step outside the situation and use your parents' first name and what is their story. How did that story begin to shape them? And good morning to those of you who are coming in. Your parents are humans first, and as humans, we know that they might have made mistakes, not apologized, been emotionally immature, or even physically immature if they had you at a younger age, struggle with keeping their promises, have unreasonable expectations from you. They might not have had all the answers. They might have been unaware of how their actions were impacting you. They might have just simply wanted things to go their way, or they used coping mechanisms that were unhealthy. And they might have been unaware of what they didn't know. So ask yourself, what are your parents' stories? Their stories still are not an excuse for what happened, but they are valuable information and insights about the reasons for their behaviors. If your parent is unable to tell their story, ask other family members to share what they know. Children often bear the scars of their parents' trauma. Things that you might be waiting to hear from your parents. I didn't have the tools to give you what you needed. I was working through my stuff and didn't know how to raise you while I was working through it. I made mistakes and hurt you. What can I do now to improve our relationship? I was overwhelmed and it was reflected in how I parented. I didn't know how to handle your emotions because I didn't know how to handle my own. I did my best, but it was not what you needed. So control what you can. Focus on the parts of your relationship that you can control. Nurture the parts of yourself that needs attention as a result of their inattention. Teach yourself what they didn't or could not teach you. While you may never return or never turn your parents into what you want, you can acknowledge and enjoy a meaningful part of your relationship with them. Questions to consider when working through your issues with your parents. What is your definition of a healthy parent? How did your parents show they loved you, if at all? What are some of the current issues in your relationship with your parents? What expectations do you want to implement going forward in your relationship with your parents? What do you need to accept about your parents and your relationship with them? And finally, offer them some grace. What are your flaws? Everyone has them, and it isn't always helpful to label one person's flaws as worse than someone else's. This doesn't mean that all is forgiven, but it's possible that your parents did not know how to manage the job of parenthood, because parenthood is a job and it's a learned skill. And some people put their all into learning the skill of parenting, while some people choose not to do so at all. Remember that it isn't your fault. Parents come with their own history. Marcy's mother, as we read earlier, abused her verbally and physically, while her mother's boyfriend abused her intimately. Although Marcy didn't grow up to abuse her own children, she still had an alcohol problem, just like her mother. Both Marcy and her mother experienced trauma. This is not an excuse, but it is an explanation of what happened to them and what they need to work on moving forward. In a perfect world, parents would have children only after they've done substantial work on themselves. And I want to say to that truth, shout out to the millennials and to the um, Gen Zers who are now sort of choosing this particular path to do the work on themselves, to choose to start having children late a little bit later in life so that they have the emotional skills, the social skills, the physical and financial wherewithal to really support having children. We are starting to see that shift with the millennial generation, that they are waiting until later to have children. The writer says it's unlikely that everyone will be healed and whole before becoming parents, and many deal with their own difficult issues while they raise their children. We discussed previously, a parent's substance abuse issue is never the child's fault. All right, so we're going to stop there for today. We will pick up next week back in troubleshooting relationships with parents. I want to move to her second book, which is more of a focus on us as individuals. And good morning to those of you coming in. Set Boundaries, Find Peace, a guide to reclaiming yourself. And we are in the chapter entitled, What Are You Doing to Honor Your Boundaries? What are you doing to honor your boundaries? We want to talk today about the boundaries you have around your thoughts, the boundaries you have around your reactions, and the people you allow in your life. Thoughts. Just like you might stop someone else from talking to you in a certain way, as we like to say, I don't want anybody talking crazy to me, right? What are your standards for how you speak to yourself? Do you talk crazy to yourself? Is your inner voice your worst critic? Are you the one that is talking crazy to yourself when nobody's looking? Are your thoughts the ones that are bombarding you with negativity? What are your standards for how you speak to yourself? Because self-talk and inner dialogue, as well as how you talk to yourself in the presence of others, matters. It may seem corny, but giving yourself a pep talk can be beneficial. Here are some mantras for talking to yourself in a kind way. It will be okay. I did my best. They didn't deserve me. Turn that energy inward by setting a boundary to speak to yourself in a gentle, kind, and loving way. Now, if you are a person who is externally critical of a lot of things, you may not even realize that your external criticism is often turned in on yourself. I know there's been a few people in my life that I've had to say, I need you to stop talking crazy to me. And I know you're talking crazy to yourself. I know you're talking crazy to yourself because almost everything you say is highly critical of other people. And you can't tell me that you're that highly critical of other people and you're not doing it to yourself. And so sometimes you have to challenge yourself to say, am I putting out whatever I'm putting out into the world with my words? Am I doing that to myself? If I'm always looking at people through the lens of criticism or pessimism or cynicism, am I doing that to myself? Evaluate your own thoughts. Making self-deprecating statements to yourself is another way that you might be speaking unkindly about yourself. When I get up in the morning and I look at myself in the mirror, my thoughts about myself are good. I don't start talking about, how my hair looks, or start thinking about how my eyebrows are not straight and how I don't have any eyebrows. I draw my eyebrows in, but I don't get up in the morning and say, oh my God, I don't have any eyebrows. Like, it's clear I don't have any. Let's fix that. Let's add some on, right? So we have to think about, are we speaking in an unkind way about ourselves first? Because it is reflected in how we talk to other people and how we say things to other people. When you make disparaging comments or cruel jokes about yourself, you give others license to do the same to you. So be mindful of what you say about yourself in front of other people. Why? Because as we have all learned and all know at this point in our life, that people will treat you how you treat yourself. You are teaching people how to treat you. So I don't make disparaging comments about myself. I don't. Therefore, I don't expect other people to make disparaging comments about me because I don't do it to myself. I'm just saying. Boundaries to consider. Think about yourself in this moment. I speak to myself as gently as I would talk to a small child. Last night we were out to dinner. My husband and I, he was celebrating a work win, and we saw there was like lots of children. Lately, I don't know. I haven't been seeing a lot of children in public, which is concerning, as if people are like hiding their children away. But yeah, last night as we were out to dinner, there were several people who had several like small children, maybe like 2, 3 years old, some younger than that. But there were several different tables of, families out eating. And the small children would just keep looking at our table, and they just kept looking over there until finally, like, as some of the parents were leaving out, they spoke and came by our table and said hi. And, they noticed that their children were just staring at us, which is a whole other story because my husband is a baby magnet. But as the little children were walking by, you just saw all of this like curiosity on their face, all this like, where am I? I'm looking around, I'm seeing the bright lights, I'm observing everything. And then this one little girl, she was the cutest thing. As she was leaving out, she was waving at everybody, big juicy smile on her face, saying bye bye, bye bye. And you could see all the tables were stopping and looking at her and joining her and greeting her back and telling her goodbye. We didn't know this family, but everybody in the restaurant was kind of getting caught up in just interacting with this little child. And I thought to myself, in terms of psychology, that a child like that who is just open and trusting and receiving of strangers and wanting to greet strangers, it is said that the way that adults respond to a child that young tends to start shaping their trust of people in general. And the fact that everybody stopped to respond in a kind way to the child, in a gentle way to that child. And so I think about this. I think about how quickly everybody stopped, everybody paused, everybody responded in a kind way. Nobody was raising their voice at the child. Nobody was like sharp with the child. Nobody was like, those kids. Nobody was like, I wish these kids would be quiet. Nobody looked at the child and said something rude. How are you speaking to yourself? So when she said this, I speak to myself as gently as I would talk to a child. I went right back to that moment. And I was like, yeah, I would speak to myself as gently as I would to a child. It was no judgment. Nobody was looking at the little girl and saying, oh my gosh, why is she interrupting everybody? Why is she coming by everybody's table on her way out the door to say goodbye? We all took it in stride. We all took it as something sweet and something kind that we all experienced in the moment. Think about, how are you talking to yourself through your awkward moments? Some of us don't have awkward moments. I have them all the time. And the way that I coach myself through my awkward moments is, I'm human. I'm going to make mistakes. I'm going to say something wrong. Sometimes I might twist my words. I used to have a speech impediment when I was a child, and I had to go to speech therapy and learn how to put my tongue behind my teeth when I talk. Well, sometimes my tongue still slips out. That's an awkward moment, but I coach myself through it. Why? Because I am human. Do you allow yourself to make mistakes without judging yourself harshly? I am very good at this. If I spill something, if I break something, I'm like, okay, clean it up. I can get another one. It's okay. It's all right. I don't go into a major meltdown when a mistake is made. Do you do that? I would hope not. And if you do, if you're having major meltdowns because of minor mistakes, I want you to dial it back and realize it is okay to be human. It is. I don't call myself names. I was talking with a psychologist the other day online, and she was talking about how um, when you allow somebody to call you something derogatory in a casual, joking way, and you don't correct them, and it's a derogatory word, you're essentially sort of giving them way in the future to call you that derogatory thing and mean it. So I don't call myself names. I don't use the B word. I don't use the H word. I don't use the N word. There's a lot of words I just have taken out of my vocabulary. I don't call people idiots because I don't want to be called an idiot. I don't use the word stupid to describe myself or other people. So the boundaries that I set for myself when it comes to what I want to be called, I don't say, well, don't call me a B, but I'm gonna use that language with you. No, I don't call myself those names. I don't use those names directed at other people. Therefore, it's an automatic boundary for me when I hear those words and when people try to address me with those words. That tells me we're probably not a energetic match. If those are the words you use in your regular vocabulary to describe your friends, we're not an energetic match because every time you would use that word towards me, I'm going to stop you and say, don't call me that. Now, some people, again, they're okay with those words. I'm not. Boundaries to consider. Last one. I don't make mean comments about myself, either in my mind or out loud in front of others. These are all boundaries to consider. These don't have to be your boundaries. These are just boundaries to consider. Okay. Reactions. Make a promise to yourself to set boundaries with regard to how you respond to situations. I'm learning and have learned to do better about this. I used to react to a lot of things. Now I focus on responding. Now I take a moment to breathe and count to 10. I didn't always do that. Um, Now I say, if I'm thinking about it, if something bothers me and I'm thinking about it beyond 5 minutes, I probably need to address it because I don't want it to continue to just sit in my mind or simmer. I need to address it. So that's my time frame. If somebody did something and I'm still thinking about that thing that they did that didn't sit well with me 5 minutes later, I'm still thinking about it, I probably need to address it. Maybe I need to message them or DM them or text them or email them or call them. I know a lot of people don't like phone calls anymore, so I go some other routes, right? But think about the boundary you want to set with how you respond to situations. This may seem difficult since things can happen unexpectedly or people can tick you off in the moment. But just because you feel angry doesn't mean you have to yell or respond right then. Shouting is a choice you make to display that you're mad. Yet plenty of angry people make the choice to cry. Sometimes that happens to me. If I'm really angry about something, I will start crying. Take deep breaths, walk away, or phone a friend to process their feelings. Now, that's a tricky one because if the friend that you're phoning is either related to or in some way connected to the person you're angry with, you don't necessarily want to divulge what's happening in the moment because you haven't taken time to address it with the person. But you can say, listen, I just need a moment. I'm processing a feeling. Right now, I'm mad. I'm angry. I'm not going to discuss what I'm angry about. I just need a moment for you to be here with me and for me to breathe. That keeps the integrity of yourself as you're dealing with the issue that you have not yet addressed with the other person. Sometimes what happens is we go call a friend that knows both of us, and then we start telling the friend all the stuff that the other person did to make us angry, but we haven't addressed it with the person that we're angry with. Let's work on that. Let's do better about that. You can decide how you want to deal with uncomfortable feelings and experiences. Here are some boundaries to consider. I don't hit people or any property when I'm upset. Now, my boundary is I don't hit people. And if I want to destroy something, I'm going to destroy something of my own that I can replace, or I don't care if it's destroyed. Those are my boundaries. Because sometimes I do. I pick up stuff. These days, they have a whole room where you can go to and you can break things. I forget what it's called in different places, but there's a whole room that when people are angry, you can go there and you can reserve a room and you can get a hammer and a chisel and whatever else they got in there, and you can just spend time breaking things. And then you come out and feel better. Yes, that is a thing. Another boundary to consider. If I feel the need to cry, I allow myself to do so. I don't hold back my tears when I'm angry. Some people might do that. I don't. Boundary to consider. When I get agitated, I remove myself from the situation and practice my breathing until I feel calm. Now, I will do that. I will excuse myself from spaces and places and people that have made me irate. Yeah, I will do that. Finally, people in your life, people you allow in your life. The other day, I was given this wonderful, interesting statement, and I'm gonna share it with you. And I said, yeah, I want to talk about this for a moment um, on the broadcast today. Let me make sure it's in my other phone here. And it's talking about the relationships we get ourselves into that are adjacent friendships. Let me go to collections. Here it is. And it is, don't mistake circumstance adjacency for friendship. You're not going to hear the words circumstance adjacency. If you hear it outside of this platform, that's because somebody listened and took it from this platform. Don't mistake circumstance adjacency for friendship. You're adjacent to somebody in a friendship, in a circumstance. Maybe you all got into some kind of trouble together. Maybe you find yourself in a troublesome circumstance and you find some sort of camaraderie with the person because you're both in the same circumstance. That's circumstance adjacency. You both got a flat tire. You're both dealing with a financial situation and you wind up meeting this person while both of you are dealing with the situation. Okay. Don't mistake circumstance adjacency for friendship. Some people would have never become your friend had they not fallen from their pedestal, whatever that pedestal was, wherever they thought they were in life. They're on hard times. You're on hard times. You guys get into really an acquaintanceship, not a friendship. They were too busy looking down on you to see you as an equal. They didn't never saw themselves as being here, but here they are, and here you are. So a companionship, a acquaintanceship is formed. But when they bounce back, their condescension will return. That friendship will no longer be. Why? Because that friendship was not based around the way people actually maintain healthy friendships and healthy relationships. So sometimes when we meet people in a crisis place in our life, we become attached to them. We become familiar with them. We do a little bit of trauma bonding. But once you or that person is out of the situation, that relationship may no longer be. It may not last beyond the circumstance adjacency. And I wish I would have learned that lesson a little later in life. I wish I would have learned it. Well, not later, but earlier in life, because there has been relationships where I have felt like the person was my friend. I felt like we connected. I thought that we would be friends beyond a certain point, and that relationship dissipated and disintegrated. It wasn't that that person was bad. It's just that the connection that happened was really based on a circumstance and not necessarily a genuine friendship connection. All right. So let's see what she says here about people you allow in your life. I always date men who cheat, Nancy said to me during a session. She had a type, a womanizer she would try to fix. She couldn't see that in selecting the same type of person over and over, she was inviting a dynamic she claimed that she didn't want. According to the Journal of Marriage and Family Studies, 57% of men overall admit to committing infidelity at some point in their lives. 54% of women overall admit to committing infidelity in one or more of their relationships. 22% of married men admit to having an affair at least once during their marriages. 14% of married women admit to having an affair at least once during their marriages. Of course, not everyone cheats, but Nancy repeatedly landed herself in relationships with men who did. Despite knowing the red flags of dating someone who isn't healthy, she went against her better judgment and dated people she knew were not good for her. Yet each time she hoped the situation would end differently. It didn't. So she found herself asking the same question over and over: why does everyone cheat on me? Rather than asking the question, why do I keep choosing partners who cheat? The answer is that Nancy's boundaries were porous. She would allow people to do the things she didn't like. Then she'd become resentful and angry. But when she came to me, she was finally ready to start a healthy relationship. The bottom line is that you don't have to have relationships with certain types of people that you do not like. You're not obligated to. Doing so is a choice. At least to some degree, you can curate and create the types of relationships you want by adhering to boundaries that will make your life easier. If you notice that you are attracting the same type of person over and over, ask yourself, what is it about me that attracts this type of person? What is this person trying to teach me about myself that I might need to change so that I can stop attracting this kind of person? What am I trying to work through in this relationship? Boundaries to consider. I create an idea of the type of people I want in my life. I make sure that I'm aligning to that myself. So if I want creative people in my life, I might want to practice being creative and being in spaces where creativity is happening. If I want kind people in my life, I need to make sure that I'm putting out kindness, right? If I want people who are experienced in my life, people who are faithful, people who are loyal, people who are giving, then I need to make sure that those qualities exist in myself. When I notice issues in my relationships, I honor myself by speaking up. All right, we are going to stop here for today. And Pastor Ben, I am going to send you the link to join. All right, I have sent you the link to join, and hopefully you'll be able to join. But I hope that you got something out of today's message here on honoring your own boundaries. And again, it just keeps going back to that saying of be the thing that you want to see happening in the world. You can't expect people to be what you yourself are not trying to be. You can't expect yourself to be surrounded by kind people if you're mean and disrespectful and saying all manner of craziness to people around you, you can expect yourself to be surrounded by kind people because that's not what you're putting out into the world. Good morning.
Oh,
You're breaking up just a little bit.
okay, it's probably where we are. We're
Okay,
on the road, just maybe heading to Home Depot.
gotcha.
Uh,
I can hear you now.
okay, okay.
Um,
One of the things that
spoken
you've
about
spoken about
was
was
about
about I
I don't
don't
want
want
to
to
say
say
childhood
childhood
trauma,
trauma,
but
but it's
it's
about
about
things
things
that you
that
may
you
have
may have
gone through
gone
with
through
your
with your
parents.
parents. Mm-hmm.
Um,
Um,
my
my
dad
dad
wasn't the
wasn't the
greatest
greatest when he
father
was
when he
raising
was
us,
raising us,
but he
but
did
he
what he
did
knew
what
how
he
to
knew how
do.
to do.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
And then it
and then
seemed
it
like
seemed
after
like
we
after
got
we got
grown and we're
grown and
out
we're
the
out the
house,
house,
he
he
decided he
decided he
wanted to
wanted to
start going
start
to
going to
church.
church,
Mm-hmm. And
and
his
his
relationship
relationship
grew.
grew.
So I
So I
mean, it
mean, it
wasn't that we
wasn't that
didn't
we
have a
didn't have a
great
great
relationship.
relationship, because we did.
His relationship began to grow, and he will say this about him:
Actually, began to live a life
repentance.
of repentance.
He lived it.
He lived it.
So when he was
So when he was
in the hospital for his
in the
last
hospital for
time,
his last time,
he
he
apologized to us,
apologized to us,
and we all felt the
and we all
same
felt
way.
the
Daddy,
same
you
way.
don't
Daddy,
owe
you
us
don't
an
owe us an
apology.
apology.
You did the
You
best
did
you
the best
could,
you could,
and
and
we all
we all
saw
saw
the
the
change in his
change in
life.
his life.
See,
See,
we
we
saw
saw
that.
that.
Did that
Did that
take
take
away
away
anything that
anything
we
that we
grew up
grew up
with?
with?
In
In
some
some
ways,
ways,
yes,
yes,
but it
but
didn't
it didn't
take
take
away
away
the
the
memory.
memory.
But
But
because of what we
because of
saw,
what we saw,
and because of our
and because of
relationship
our
with him
relationship
even
with him
growing
even
more,
growing more,
I would say it
I would
did.
say it did.
Okay. So
So
I know
I
some
know
people
some people
always looking
always looking
for, I'm
for, I'm
sorry,
sorry,
I
I
apologize,
apologize, and looking for them to
to
go
go
overboard and
overboard and
out of
out
their
of their
way
way
to
to
make
make
things
things
up to
up to
you.
you.
But we
But
didn't
we
do
didn't
that
do that
because his
because his
daily
daily
life
life
showed.
showed.
Listen,
Listen,
he
he
loved us.
loved us.
His
His
life
life
showed that he
showed that he
loved us.
loved us.
But there were
But there were
things
things in his life
that
just wasn't
just wasn't
the greatest.
the greatest,
And he
and
ruled with an
he
iron
ruled with an
fist.
iron fist.
So
So
uh, you know, but
but
as I said,
as I said,
we all
we
got
all
old. Well,
got old.
not
We
old,
not
but
old, but
older.
older.
Grew up,
Grew up,
got out of the
got out of
house,
the house,
and
and
he
he
started going to
started going to
church.
church. His
His relationship
relationship
started
started
changing
changing
with
with
us
us
and
and
God.
God, and we went on from there. But now we do have those because I've dealt with people. They're in their 50s and still dealing
Dealing
with
with
childhood
childhood
trauma
trauma
because
because
they
they
never
never
chose
chose
to let
to
it
let
go.
it go.
They
They
never
never
chose to
chose to
deal with
deal
it.
with it. And I do want to say that some things are not necessarily a let go moment as
Hmm.
much as it is a understanding what happened and
Hmm.
managing the grief around it.
Hmm.
Because if somebody abandoned you, right, you have a right to that feeling
Hmm.
of what you feel about abandonment. But then it becomes, how do I manage that feeling? How do I not abandon myself? If I have children, what do I need to look out for so that I don't become the thing that once that I felt when I was abandoned?
Hmm.
Because a lot of times people who deal with abandonment issues sometimes tend to abandon other people. So how do I stop that cycle from going to my next generation because I've been abandoned, right? I've seen that as a pattern in my life through my parent. I've seen that as a way of addressing things in life is to abandon them, right? That's what I was taught by what my parent did to me. So how do I not carry that over? And of course, if I have children, how do I not carry that over? So yeah, I mean, right now, I think I want to say millennials and Gen X especially are finding themselves getting into therapeutic practices more, not just going to therapy, but all of the other things that you can do that are therapeutic practices. I feel like our two generations are realizing, yeah, we don't need to hold these things in. We need to, seek the professional help. In some cases, that might require medication. In other cases, that might require, you know, more than one time a week to see our therapist. Um, and so I will say that I feel like these two generations are more open and accepting about needing therapy and not trying to just do it all by yourself and thinking, I don't need anybody, I don't need any help.
Hmm.
Well,
Well,
you're
you're
right.
right.
The
The
words
words
letting
letting
go,
go,
when I
when I
said
said
letting
letting
go,
go,
I
I
wasn't
wasn't
saying
saying
just
just
completely
completely
disregard
disregard
it
it
Yeah.
and
and
abandon
abandon
it.
it.
I
I
was
was
basically
basically
saying
saying
work
work
it
it
out.
out.
Uh, but
But
um,
um, there's some I don't know. There are
there are
some
some
people
people
that
that
they
they
just
just
don't know
know
how
how
to
to
just
just
work
work
around or to
around or to
deal
deal
with
with
what
what
happened with
happened
them.
with
It's
them.
like
It's like,
because I know for a
for a
fact
fact,
one of the
one of the
people that
people
I
that
know.
I know,
It's like
it's like
they
they,
in a way
in a
wear
way,
it as
wear
a
it as a
badge,
badge,
Mm-hmm.
but at the
but at
same
the same
time,
time,
it's like a
it's like a
weight that they
weight that they
carry.
carry.
It's like
Mm-hmm.
it's like it
It's like it
torments them
torments them
Mm-hmm.
because they'll
because
talk
they'll
about
talk
it.
about it.
Believe me, they will
Believe me, they
talk
will
about it,
talk about it,
Mm-hmm.
but
but
there's no
there's no
progress.
progress.
And then they will
Then they will
snap at
snap
other
at other
people.
people.
Mm-hmm.
This is one
This
of
is one
those
of
who say
those who
that
say that
God called
God called
her
her
to
to,
how do I
how
want
do
to
I
say
want
it?
to say it?
To
To
basically
basically
straighten other
straighten
people
other
out,
people out,
correct
correct
people. He
people.
called
He
her to
called her to
correct
correct
people,
people,
but yet she
but yet
can't
she
deal with
can't deal with
correction.
correction.
See,
See,
if you
if you
correct her
correct her in
in the
in the
simplest
simplest
way,
way,
she may have
she may
said
have
the
said
wrong
the wrong
word, and you
word, and you
correct her
correct
that
her
she was
that
the
she was the
okay. Now,
okay. Now,
okay,
okay,
maybe you
maybe
meant
you meant
this.
this.
I know what
I
I
know
meant.
what I
You
meant.
don't tell
You
me
don't
what I
tell me
meant.
what I
She
meant.
go off
She go
like
off
that,
like that,
and I'm like,
and I'm like,
you got
you
some
got some
issues you need to
issues you
deal
need to
with.
deal with.
You know,
You know,
because if I
because if
am
I am
correcting you in a
correcting you in a
polite way,
polite way,
and I'm
and
saying,
I'm
well,
saying, well,
is this
is
what you
this what
meant,
you meant?
or maybe you
Maybe
meant it
you
this
meant it
way,
this way,
and you go
and you
off,
go
just
off,
say
just say
no.
no.
I meant it
I
the way
meant
I
it the way
said
I
it.
said it.
All the
All
yelling
the
and
yelling
screaming
and
and stuff
screaming and
like
stuff
that,
like that,
it's not
it's not
necessary.
necessary.
I'm having
I'm
a
having a
conversation,
conversation,
not an
not an
argument.
argument.
Mm-hmm.
See,
See,
and there are
and
some
there are
things
some
that's
things
going
that's
on
going
with this
on with
young
this young
lady
lady
right
right
now
now
that she's
that she's
brought on
brought on
herself
herself
because of that
because of that
attitude.
attitude.
There's a
There's a
path that
path
she's
that she's
following
following
that's going
that's
to lead
going
to
to
her
lead to her
destruction sooner
destruction
or
sooner or
later
later
because of that
because of that
attitude.
attitude.
But
But
anybody that try
anybody
and
that try
talk
and
to
talk
her,
to her,
she look at
she
it
look
as
at it
they
as
don't
they
like
don't
me
like me
versus
versus
And I
okay,
would
they
okay,
love
they
definitely
me
love
and
me and
they want me
they
to
want me
walk
to walk
straight.
straight.
and I would definitely say that that's a trauma response. You
Hmm.
know, people who survive trauma want one of the things that they say about that is you can try to reframe the trauma that you survived by wearing it as a badge of honor. But if you're not dealing with the results of your trauma, um, you can still, like you said, you can still find yourself lashing out at people. So even though you're wearing it as a badge of honor and saying, this happened to me, but I survived it, the question is, you survived
Mm-hmm.
it, but you're not thriving in your life beyond it because the results of it are still active and you're still managing your life through reaction and not
Mm-hmm.
addressing what happened to you. So it happened to you, you survived it. We're thankful that you survived it. But now, how are you going to manage your life beyond that? Or are you always going to be reacting from what happened to you? And again,
Mm-hmm.
that's a choice that people make. You can't, that's one thing we know. You can't make people reframe or manage their trauma unless you're talking about the Baker's Act. You can't reframe or make people manage their trauma. You have to decide, am I willing to stay in this person's life as I recognize that they're not interested in living from any place other than a reactionary space to what happened to them?
Mm-hmm.
Can I live with that? Can I deal with that? Um, and for some people, they'll try to hang in there with you as long as they can. But if you are, as they say, if you are pew pewing the messenger,
Mm-hmm.
you people keep coming to want to help you and want to assist you, and you just keep pew pewing them down. After a
Mm-hmm.
while, the messengers stop showing up. The
Yep.
help stops. The help stops showing up. Um, and again, it's one of those things where that's not what people intend. People don't intend to stop connecting with you, but sometimes people's trauma response can just be too much.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where again, the people in your life have to say, I think you need professional help to work through this. No one is discounting that you survived it. That's amazing. That's incredible. We're thankful that you are here. We're glad you're here. But we want you to be here and whole,
Right.
not just here. We want you to be here and whole. Final thoughts today.
Ooh. We need. I don't know. Here's the thing. When you've been traumatized, see, because I know I was traumatized as a child. I grew out of it because I recognized that I was traumatized, and I understood I wasn't going to carry this over to my kids. So I didn't do many of the things that my parents did, especially my dad, because I know how it made me feel.
Mm-hmm.
And I wasn't going to pass that trauma on. So we as adults, as a people, we need to stop saying, well, that works for me, because it didn't.
Oh, it definitely did.
It didn't. It didn't. No, but so there's a better way,
Mm-hmm.
which I chose to follow. See, so we don't have to do what was done to us. We don't have to do that. We can stop it.
Yeah.
If we get the attitude that this ends with me, just think the generations that would affect down the
Mm-hmm.
line.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So,
This ends with me. how I have set my boundaries and how I want to treat myself in the future. Those are the things that I want to
Mhm.
pass on, those healthy behaviors. Even the conversation that we're having
Mhm.
today.
Mhm.
Um, a lot of times people are not having these conversations in their households of walking yourself through a self-evaluation, a self-examination. This is a skill that you can practice with your own children. They don't have to wait until they get to be adults to start having these self-examination processes. And the earlier that we start, the better chance that your child has of improving their own self-awareness, their own emotional intelligence, their own mental health. So
Mhm.
you might have started learning to do this maybe in your late 20s, your early 30s, your early 40s,
Mhm.
even into 50. These same skills that you're learning now on how to process things and how to manage your emotions, how to um, decide what your boundaries are for yourself, these are skills that we can be teaching to younger people, um, so
Mhm.
that they can start setting those boundaries earlier and they're having less encounters with traumatic things where they don't know how to deal with them. We're equipping them earlier and giving them the tools earlier that we didn't have. And like you said, some things that happened to you in your life, you decided the buck stops here.
Mhm.
The buck stops here. One of those major bucks for a lot of people is my parents beat me without explanation.
Right.
Some people are at I will explain to my child before I discipline them. Some people are at I realize that beating me scientifically, the research shows this was not effective. The
Right.
research shows it actually damaged my brain. It made me less smart.
Mhm.
That's what the research shows. So I'm taking that component out altogether and I'm going to talk to my child and discipline my child in ways that do not require a physical component to it. Doesn't mean that my child doesn't deal with consequences for behaviors, but it means that hitting is not a part of that. Hitting is not a part of that. So,
Right.
again, I hope that we have said something helpful today. I hope you are learning and growing and healing from any childhood trauma you might have experienced. And I hope that if you don't have the best relationship with your parents, that if there's any way to repair it, that you will begin today to work on that repair while they are still alive. All right, I want to thank you for your time and attention. This has been another episode of Daring Dialogues, and I've been your host today, Shantae Charles. Remember, light is the most daring opposition to darkness, so continue to go out and be what?
Light.
Light. Thank you, Pastor Ben, for taking time out of your busy work schedule. I appreciate you always stepping in to share with us during this time. Take care, everyone. Be well, and most importantly,